Namaste. Welcome to this new session. We have been dealing with theories of error, which is a fascinating aspect of Indian philosophy. And we considered few of the theories, and now we will be considering the theory of Sankhya philosophers. That is called Sadasada Khyati. Sad means truth. Asad means untruth. Or Sad means existent. And Asad means non-existent. So these are the meanings which we have considered earlier while dealing with the word Sat. Here, in place of illusion or erroneous perception or error, the Sankhyas claim that there is knowledge which has a part of Sad and the part of Asad as well. So there is something called as Pramanamsha and Apramanamsha. So there is validity as well as invalidity. There is combination of the two. So validity cum invalidity would be the interpretation of Sadasat Khyati. And this is the standpoint of Sankhyas. So when on the nacre there is imposition of silver, at that place the nacre doesn't have silver, or there is no silver there. There is only nacre. So there is absence of silver and nacre doesn't contain silver. So that is the aspect of error which we see in illusions. But there is also Sad Ansha. What is the Sad Ansha? What is there that the truth is still lying there? So we have seen the untruth in such perceptions, that where there is no silver, we have seen silver. Which doesn't have silver, we have seen silver. But then what is the Sadansh? What is the reality aspect there, real aspect there, true aspect there? Is that what is imposed is a true object, is a true entity. We don't impose a non-existent object on an existent object. So the silver is an entity which is available elsewhere, not in the place there, not in the spot there, not in it, and not around it. But the imposed is not an untrue object. We always impose a true object. We do not ever impose untrue object. That is the Sad Amsha. That is the aspect of Sad. And that is why they end up call it Sadasad Khyati. That means there are also Sat aspect and there is also Asat aspect. So there is a blend of the two. And that's how they interpret error. It's quite an objective reality that there is something existing at your sight. For your sight, something is existing. But what is imposed is not the existing object there. And object of imposition is also an existent object, not a non-existent object. So this is quite a plain interpretation. That is a combination of Sad and Asad. So that is the Sankhya's interpretation. It's quite a plain interpretation, quite a simple interpretation. Then we next come to the interpretation of Advaita Vedantins, Shankara Vedantis, the Mayavadins. They call it Anirvachaniya Khyati. Anirvachaniya means inexplicable, undescribable. And that they say that there is anirvachaniya khyati in such illusions or erroneous perception. What do they say? They say that viparyaya, the illusion, the verbal, the erroneous perception is beyond verbal description or verbal attribute. Then why is it that they call it anirvachaniya, inexplicable? So the thing is that at the time of illusion, there is something right, something wrong, something true, something untrue, something real, and something unreal. So, and therefore, you cannot really designate that as a specific thing. You can't call it untrue, you can't call it true as well. You can't call it that it's a truth, and you can't call it that is untruth. Now, since it is beyond verbal kind of description, they end up saying that it is anirvachaniya. So, in case of nacre silver illusion, the silver is imposed on nacre. This silver is existing elsewhere. But while the nacre is sighted, the mental silver crops up. The silver in the mind crops up. And then there is that fusion between the object outside and the mental content or what springs up in mind. So there is an unusual or unique kind of anvaya, concomitance. So even if the silver is not existing in nacre, the silver is existing in the mind. So therefore, there is silver and there is no silver. There is nacre, there is no nacre. There is nacre outside, there is no nacre in the mind. There is silver in the mind, there is no silver outside at sight. And therefore, it is Sat as well as Asat. It is not Sat as well as not Asat. So, therefore they call it Anirvachaniya Khyati. The silver is existing in the memory cortex. The silver is existing in the container of the mind. It's a content in the container of the mind, and that crops up at the site of erroneous perception. Now, basically, the Mayavadins or these Advaitins or Shankara Vedantins or Adhyasavadins, they are called Adhyasavadin. So when the Sankhya say that there is some defect in this erroneous perception, the Advaitis, Mayavadins, are taking opposite stand. or when the Sankhyas are postulating the Sad aspect in erroneous perception, they are presenting Asad aspect in that erroneous perception. So they say it is Sad as well as Asad. It is not Sad as well as not Asad. And therefore they declare it as inexplicable error. So in case of rope and snake, rope is true as well as not true. The snake is true as well as not true. So it is neither faultless knowledge nor it is faultful knowledge. Now, these Mayavadins actually in their philosophy, they postulate everything our perception is untrue. For them, even a physical object is untrue. Real object at sight is also untrue in their Adhyasvada. Therefore, they have a theory of their Mayavad, where there is, in any case, there is error. Even if you have our so-called valid cognition, there is error in it. So they have little kind of predicament. Because if the cognition is also erroneous, then how is this illusion as a different kind of error? Do you understand? The so-called valid knowledge that sighting rose when there is rose, sighting rope when there is rope, sighting snake when there is snake, that itself is infested with error because of the Mayavada. Because Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Because it is a worldly object, and all worldly objects for them are untrue. Brahman is only true, rest all is untrue. Now, even in case of cognition, when the knowledge is said to be valid knowledge, they cite illusion, they cite error. And now here, in illusion again it's an error. So they have a little predicament to describe the erroneousness of perception which is not erroneous and the perception which is erroneous. Because for them both places there is error. And they have some kind of uncomfortable condition to really describe it, and that's why they straight away say it is anirvachaniya. So Jagan Mithya obsession in their minds is creating some kind of difficulty in describing this erroneous perception. Now, both are mithya jnana according to them. Both are erroneous knowledge for them. And therefore they have taken resort or taken recourse to this kind of theory, which they call it anirvachaniya khyati. Because in case of cognition, they will dogmatically say it is all false. It is because Brahma is only Satya, rest is all mithya. So seeing mithya as not as mithya, but mithya as true itself is illusion. And here it is again an illusion. And therefore they take recourse to anirvachaniya khyati. Now, these Mayavadins have been refuted by Vaishnava Vedantic philosophers, such as Madhvacharya, such as Vallabhacharya, such as Ramanujacharya, and other philosophers such as Nimbarkacharya, Bhaskaracharya. So all these various Vedantins have positioned these Mayavadins in counter position. So it will be interesting to cite the argument put forth by Madhva Vedantins. They have very bitterly taken an opposite stand. And they have refuted this anirvachaniya khyati. It's quite interesting, quite fascinating. What do they say? They say that in this world, in this universe, there is nothing which is neither Sat nor Asat, or which is Sat as well as Asat. You can't find even one object, one thing in this universe which is not Sat or not even Asat. And therefore, this is not a proper interpretation, because the basis of it is that it is neither true nor untrue. So there is nothing in this universe that is neither true nor untrue. It should be either true or untrue. And this is how they axe the argument of Mayavadins right at the root, saying that there is nothing that is actually neither Sat nor Asat. So what you consider as anirvachaniya, there is nothing like undescribable. You will either describe it as truth or untruth. There won't be a third category where you have difficulty in expression. And therefore, this is a meaningless stand taken by Mayavadins. There is nothing that is anirvachaniya in this universe. There will be some kind of nirvachanam, some kind of description, some kind of classification, either true or untrue. But there is nothing like neither true nor untrue. There is nothing that can be shown in this universe which is of that nature. So there is no vastu which is neither Sat nor Asat. And how will you have then pratyakshikaranam? Suppose you have a point of view that there is such an object which is neither true nor untrue, then it won't be object of perception. Whereas in illusion, we have perception, we see something. We see something. So the pratyakshikarana will not be possible in case there is something neither Sat nor Asat. So let's assume that there is something neither truth nor untruth. There is something such existent thing. But in that case, it won't be object for our senses. And illusions often occur because of the senses. And they occur in the senses, for the senses, by the senses. So how can you cite an object which is neither true or untrue? Now if you can't be citing any object which is neither true nor untrue, how come that there is illusion? That means there is some kind of perception, there is some kind of pratyakshikarana. And these how they have very, very, very strong opponents. Say in case of rope and snake, you can't say rope is true as well as untrue, then snake is true as well as untrue. Then in that case, neither rope will be visual object nor snake will be a visual object. Something that is true, neither true nor untrue cannot be visual object. But here is a visual object in case of rope and snake, in case of nacre and silver. So these are visible objects. And therefore, there won't be such imposition. Then interestingly, little hilariously they say, if you impose a sky flower on son of a barren woman, then it would be anirvachaniya. But then such things never happen. We do not impose non-existent thing on non-existent thing. The object of imposition and object imposed cannot be non-existent, neither non-existent nor existent. Even if it is non-existent, illusion doesn't occur there. So non-existent is not imposed on non-existent. Non-existence is not imposed on even existent. Existent is not imposed on non-existent. So they say there is no third kind of object, as Mayavadins are postulating here. and therefore they are quite severe in refuting this anirvachaniya khyati of Mayavadins. Then comes the next interpretation, which is very, very, very intriguing. This is the interpretation that comes in Vishishtadvaita philosophy. This is the interpretation that Ramanujas have. Quite intriguing, quite mind-baffling. So in case of illusion, in place of illusion, they say it is Sat-Khyati. Sat-Khyati. Sat means truth. So they say even there is truth. Is it not mind-boggling? So they, in their postulation, are refuting asad khyati, sadasat khyati, anyata khyati, viparita khyati, and anirvachaniya khyati. All these khyatis so far discussed are devastated by this kind of interpretation, which says it is true cognition. That means viparyaya, illusion, is a true cognition. Now, there's quite an intellectual polemics in this interpretation, which is quite interesting. There is enormous buddhivada in postulating that viparyaya is a satkhyati. Erroneous knowledge is a truth-bearing knowledge. There is also truth in it. Basically, any jnana is always sad-jnana. You will not have jnana of asad objects. You will not have jnana of non-existent objects. You will always have jnana with respect to a true object and never an untrue object. Okay, then why is the illusion here? If this is true cognition, if it is satkhyati and true cognition, why is it then viparyaya? How is this viparyaya? They have a very, very formidable answer here. Very interesting answer as well. So, let us try to understand the tenets behind such postulation. See, the knowledge of what exists is always true knowledge, because what exists is true. And that is called pratyaksha. That means directly seeing something that is true. That means truth bearing knowledge is pratyaksha. That is what is called, why it is called pratyaksha, and then it is called valid knowledge. The thing is, our jnana is not as the things are, but our knowledge is as the things appear. So in pratyaksha, this is what the case is. In laukika pratyaksha, in this epistemological pratyaksha, direct perception, we do not see the things as they are, but we see the things as they appear. So jnana is with regards to as the things appear, and jnana is not with regards to as the things are. So this must be understood in valid perception, valid cognition, or direct cognition, direct perception, which is valid knowledge. Now in case of illusion, viparyaya, we have rajata jnana in shukti. We have silver knowledge in nakar, or snake knowledge in rope. So sarpa jnana in rajju, and Rajata Jnana in Shukti, that is maker. Now they take a metaphysical view here. They say even in nacre there is some amount of silver. It can be minuscule, but you can't refuse it on metaphysical plane, or in higher plane of physics you can't refuse that there is no silver. There will be very minuscule silver there too. Why? Because even modern science has this postulation that all matters exist in all matters. So silver is matter, nacre is matter. So the matter of silver also exists in matter of silver, nacre. In philosophy, in Vedanta, it is called Panchikaranam, quintuplication. See, anyway, any object, you will ultimately go to Prithvi, Ap, Tej, Vayu, Akash, the 5 elements. And in manifest world, all the 5 elements exist in all 5 elements. That is quintuplication. The 5 elements always come together for something to be manifest, something to be object of perception or object of senses. And even the physics postulates that all matter exists in all matter. So the matter that is in silver is also available in nacre. Or the matter that is in snake is also that matter in the rope. So at a deeper plane, if you take an insight into it, you can't say the matter of snake doesn't exist in matter of rope. It is not snake in the rope. It is not snake where the rope is. But the matter of the snake is definitely composing matter of the rope. Matter of silver is composing matter of nacre as well. So little higher physics has to be understood here, and the postulation that all matter exists in all matter. Therefore, you can't say that there is no silver at all in nacre. You can't say that there is no snake at all in the rope. So they take recourse to what is called Panchikarana in Vedanta, what is called quintuplication, because that's how the elements come together for manifestation. But the amount of silver in nacre is so minuscule that it doesn't deserve the tag that it is silver. It is so minuscule scale that you can't put a tag on it that it is silver, and therefore we say it is illusion. And therefore we say it is nacre and not silver. So, do you understand the true aspect of cognition? The matter of snake is also matter of rope. The matter of silver is also matter of nacre. And therefore, the silver is there in nacre. The snake is there in the rope, but on a very minuscule quantum. Now the silver in nacre is so insignificant, so minimal, that you cannot really take out the silver from it and go to jeweler and get some money against the silver that is available in nacre. It is that much minuscule, it is that much insignificant that there can be no vyavahara. You can't have business of activity aspect carried out there. But yet there is truth. It cannot be absolutely untrue. It is to be understood here that the knowledge is after all coming to our subjective entity, and the substrate of it is Atma. Atma is Chit principle. Now the Chit principle cannot be having no knowledge at all, or wrong knowledge absolutely. So in case of the illusion here, there is that kind of error that in business activity of life, the silver is meaningless in nature. The snake is meaningless in rope. However, you can't say it is untrue, because Atma is going to get the knowledge, and it is not proper to postulate that Atma itself will get wrong knowledge. So, in ontology, it is postulated that even illusion has true content. So, the Satkhyatiwadins, the Ramanujiyas, are also giving some justice, according some justice to ontology. Now, nowhere in earlier interpretation ontology was really considered, because ontology means Satta Mimamsa. What it is about all that exists. So it was only taken on Vyavahara plane, business activity of life, and therefore we end up saying this is erroneous knowledge, this is non-erroneous knowledge. Look at taking the rope as rope, non-erroneous. Taking the rope as snake, erroneous. Because it is for business activity of life, the realities are meaningless. The snake in the rope is meaningless. It doesn't serve the purpose as snake. There is such a minuscule volume of snake in rope that it doesn't serve the purpose of snake for us. So is the case of nacre and silver. And therefore, they say it is sadkhyati. It is true. However, not true for business activity of life. Not true for vyavahara. You can't do any vyavahara with that amount of silver which is there in nacre, or that amount of snake which is there in rope. But with the fact that all matter exists in all matter, matter of the rope, snake is also in the matter of the rope. Whatever is the matter of snake is matter of the rope. Whatever is the matter of the silver is matter of the nacre as well. And therefore, they highlight the truth aspect. And that's why they embrace the Satkhyati. So far we considered the theories of error or the false cognition. The Naiyayikas had Anyatha Khyati. Mimamsakas, the Prabhakar school, had Akhyati. Sankhyas had the postulation of Sadasat Khyati. So there is some kind of reality. It is not something that it should be totally rejected. Their interpretations cannot be totally rejected. The idealists had the interpretation of Atmakhyati and Asadkhyati. And then we can cite the defects there. So these are various interpretations. The point is, what is the interpretation of Patanjali? Now, in the pedagogy in Darshana Shastra, this has not really come up. But it might be said based on Patanjali's Sutra or of Viparya Sutra, Atadrupa Khyati. Because this sutra is Viparyayo Mithya Jnanam Atadrupa Pratishtam, Atadrupa Khyati, Atadrupa. The perception not in the form the things are, or perhaps the things even appearancely are, and therefore we say it is erroneous knowledge. But in Atadrupa Khyati, it also circumscribes the deeper realities. Because in any case, we do not see the things as they are, but as they appear. Even if it is valid knowledge, the things are not seen as they are, but they are seen as they appear. So, even when it is valid knowledge on worldly plane, then on a higher plane of consciousness, it is not really valid. See, our knowledge is invalidated by more wiser people who are on higher pedestal. So they say that our perceptions are not valid. So as the column of knowledge, the column of wisdom, column of caliber of consciousness goes up, so those who are on higher pedestal of consciousness, for them, whatever is perceived by those on a lower column of consciousness, it is untrue. So there is, in any case, there is atatrupa khyati. Only when there is a final kind of realization, which only happens intuitively, mystically, that will be absolutely true. Now, our truths are our relative truths. What is true to a child is not true to a grown-up one. What is true to a grown-up one is not true to wiser people or scientists. So scientists will always find fault in our perceptions, because we will not be seeing with the depth the scientists will be able to see. So anyway, there is atadrupa khyati. So Patanjali's postulation is quite pervasive in its radius, and therefore he says it is atadrupa khyati, because in any case we do not see the things as they really are, but we see the things as they appear. And then this appearancy form is also different with heightened consciousness. So someone little above our plane will declare it as something else. Someone above that plane will further declare something else. Ultimately, there is the final, absolute real postulated, which is only by intuitive mystic process, samadhi process. So only in samadhi we have tadrupa jnana. Now understand the caliber of a yogi. The yogi will declare or will see the things as they really, really, really are. So then that is the absolute truth. And we are all living in relative truth. Something truth here and now, something truth for you and me. But on little higher plane, that is untrue or that is not true. Something else is true. Then further higher plane, that too is not true. Something else is true. So this is the whole structure of relative knowledge. Ultimate knowledge is final knowledge, and that's absolute knowledge. And therefore, Patanjali's interpretation is having such a kind of radius that it circumscribes the all planes of realities, and ultimately the final plane of reality as well. So that's how the illusions, erroneous knowledge is being interpreted. So this was a darshanik dimension of viparyaya. So far we were considering a bit of psychology aspect of it, the psychological dimension of illusion, psychosensory dimension of illusion, and the darshanik dimension of illusion. But this is a vritti, this is a chitta vritti. So certain things are to be highlighted here, that the process of vritti is not distinct to pratyaksha, or even if it is illusion in the realm of anumana, it can be illusion in the realm of agama as well. We will have illusions in pratyaksha, anumana, agama. Do you understand? What we call as lack of understanding, incomplete understanding, improper understanding, etc., etc. So the viparyaya is not only in objects which we have used so often in examples, such as rope and snake, and nacre and silver, or pole and the post and man. So these are all visible objects. So these are only visual illusions. But we can have misapprehensions even in something that we hear. And then someone at some point in time tells us what you heard was not proper. Or what you interpreted, what you heard was not proper. So there can be such viparyaya even when we are hearing something. Although in examples you have not cited anything as illusory auditory perception. But there is illusory auditory perception, illusory olfactory perception, illusory tactile perception, illusory gustatory perception. It is possible. Mental perception, possible. In intellectual perception, possible. Emotional perception, possible. So we can have illusion, and therefore we say, oh, I thought it was like that. At some stage we have such an expression. Now I realize that it was not like that. So it could be a mental perception, intellectual perception, emotional perception. So illusions can happen everywhere there. Then illusions will give us sukha dukkha moha. So this should not be out of sight while we are dealing this in Patanjali's system. Because if pratyaksha, anumana, agama is going to give us either pain, pleasure, delusion, then this can also give pain, pleasure, delusion. But then, as I said earlier, that agama has very, 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 very scarce potentials to give you delusions. That's why we should embrace agama pramana, because there is less chance of getting deluded. There is less chance of getting sorrow. So that we considered while we are dealing with agama pramana. So understand wider scope of the viparyaya here. Then the viparyaya will be either klishta or aklishta. This is the interesting aspect which Patanjali has expressly mentioned. Because each of the vritti could be either klishta or aklishta. So when it is klishta, it is going to add to bondage potentials. It is going to add to bondage. It is going to add to worldliness, mundanity, mortality. In our everything. We are mortals, our thoughts are also mortals. While the aklishta vritti is going to give you viveka. It's going to give you some means for apavarga. It is going to extend some assistance to your process of liberation, process of emancipation, process of kaivalya, process of nirvana, or at least process of breaking the shackles of bondage, bandha vimukti. So that is aklishta kind of thing. Now we can easily infer the klishta kind of thing by illusory perception. But how come that there can be something such constructive contribution in illusion? So I will give you a kind of example here, relate you a story which will suffice to convince you that there is possible aklishta potential even in illusions. So listen to this story. There was a burglar. So there was a robber, burglar of very high order. And so once what happened, he was in act of burglary, and something appeared for his sight, a ghost, a vampire, and he started running away from there. Since he sighted a vampire and ghost, so he started running. And he ran and ran and ran and ran and ran, and somewhere he thought he should be hiding himself, because he was seeing that the ghost is following him, the vampire is following him. So ultimately somewhere he found a place and he entered. And when he entered, it happened to be a temple of Sri Rama. A temple of Sri Rama, and then he entered there and then looked behind, and there was no vampire. And then he realized this is a temple, and he fell at the feet of Lord Rama. And then resolved that hereafter I will never be engaging myself in act of burglary. Never ever. Because he was absolutely petrified. The heart rate had reached the sky high. And then therefore he resolved there that I will never ever engage myself in burglary. And then he found that he was in his dreams. He woke up. Oh my God, he said, this was my dream experience. But anyway, that gave a revelation for him, and thereafter he never indulged in such kind of activities. It weaned him for lifetime from such unscrupulous activities. Now, is that not upliftment of his consciousness? That can happen. So it was an illusion for him that there was neither Rama temple, nor there was a ghost following him and chasing him and he running, because he was on his bed. So that's an example which is sufficient to convince that there can be aklishta viparyaya. Anyway, with that we will end this session, and we will be ending this. But as students of Patanjali, we have to understand this viparyaya, which is klishta and aklishta. Patanjali is only one who is speaking about aklishta vrittis everywhere. This is so important for yogic processes. And you as students should every time be looking at this aklishta aspect of pratyaksha, anumana, agama, viparyaya, vikalpa, dedra, smriti. All those various 5 vrittis that he has mentioned, everywhere we must try to search for this aklishta vritti. It is so fascinating. Anyway, we have done it here. So that is one aspect. And then we have seen Patanjali's interpretation of this. We have also seen that psychologically it is, psychosensorily it is same process in case of direct perception of the nature of illusion. So that is an interesting topic. But one more final thing. When Patanjali speaks about this, these are illusions in the internal realm. If you recall, while dealing with pratyaksha, pramana vritti, while dealing with pramana vritti, I said Patanjali is primarily speaking about vrittis in the internal realm and not the vrittis in the external realm, because external realm you will see somewhere nacre, somewhere silver imposed on nacre, or no imposition on nacre, nacre seen as nacre, silver seen as silver, nacre seen as silver, etc. This is only in worldly realm. In the internal realm, we don't get nacre, we don't get silver. We don't get rope, we don't get snake. These are two totally different experiences while we are really in yoga. What do we experience? We do experience something in yoga. So it could be either pramana vritti, and then it could be viparyaya vritti. So later it is, there's a disillusionment. And this disillusionment is so important. Knowledge process is nothing but it is disillusionment. In one sense of the term, it is all disillusionments. It is so important in spiritual process that we get disillusionments. That means there is an illusion already. So in the internal realm also we will be having illusions all the time until we have not climbed up on the highest rung of yogis. Until that time, on every rung it will be disillusionment, disillusionment, disillusionment. So in the internal realm, it's a totally different thing. What you call a spiritual light, spiritual experience. So it would be illusion and proved as illusion on a higher rung of our consciousness. We may scale up little higher than we say, oh, my last samadhi, so-called samadhi, was having an illusion. Because we have so-called samadhis. We have so-called dhyana. So in the making process, we are scaling the rungs of illusions, and then we climb up, get the disillusionments. That's another thing that to be considered in Patanjali's scheme of things, that viparyaya vritti is of internal realm as much as pramana vritti is of internal realm. So, with that, we will end the session here, and next time we'll go to Vikalpa. Namaskar.